So, generational wealth, got more resources coming right up. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Common Sense, Logic, and Reason. And as always, I want to say thank y'all for joining me today. So I got more resources rhetoric for y'all. Now, generational wealth is an example of fictitious notion. Again, a bunch of nonsense that black folks believe they're just simply not true. Again, this is not to say that generational wealth doesn't exist. It does exist. However, the way black people cry about it is fictitious. So anyway, what is generational wealth? Well, generational wealth is if a person earns a mass sums of wealth. We talk it could be millions or have perhaps even billions, and that person's children, grandchildren, and possibly even great-grandchildren will live off of that wealth and will never have to work a day in their life. Now, what generational wealth is not is if a person passes away and leaves $100,000 to each of their 3 children. That's not generational wealth. That's just leaving your children something behind. But many black people say that, whites had this systematic advantage from the past, and that's how these white people have, quote unquote, they have this generational wealth because they had the laws on their side. But then the problem is that you have some of those same blacks would then turn around and brag about Madam C.J. Walker, what she did. She built, which today would be considered, she would be a billionaire. And that was, in the late 1800s. She died in 1919. So that right there pretty much destroyed that narrative. But here's the problem with my problem with this whole notion of generational wealth. Again, is most millionaires today are first generational. They're first generation. They're the person who earned the wealth. So anybody can go out there and earn wealth. If that's the case, it's not like most people got all this money that they just inherited from generational wealth. They went out there and earned themselves. And if anyone can, if most people who are millionaires today are the ones who earned it, well, anybody can do that. Any black person today can go out there and earn wealth, generational wealth, as they say, and leave it to their children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. So that's basically a stupid argument, because there's nothing stopping black people from doing that. Secondly, that money has to be maintained. You have to maintain that money. Just because you earn generational wealth and you leave it to your children, your grandchildren, great-grandchildren, doesn't mean that they're going to maintain it, especially if they don't have to work and live the privileged life and don't know the effort that you had to put in to earn that, and they just squander it. We've seen this happen before. We look at the Rockefellers, right? John D. Rockefeller built the mass sums of wealth, and he put a system in place to make sure that his lineage wouldn't all have just total access to it. And that because of that system, they're still living off his wealth today. They're still privileged to living off that wealth today. Whereas, you look at the Carnegies, Andrew Carnegie, the same thing, built the mass sums of wealth. And his family members today, they're damn near broke down. All of that money that he built is damn near gone because they just squandered it. A bunch of people who didn't have to work, didn't know the value it takes to go out there and earn that wealth, and they squandered it all. And that, we can talk about the trust fund situation. Most of the trust fund babies, or the people who receive the trust, go broke because the parents give them this large sums of money, but they don't give them any wisdom of what to do with the money, and they just squander it because of not having wisdom. And as the Bible says, a fool and his money will be parted. Now, there are some of them who, again, the parents give them that wisdom, and they take it and they continue to grow, such as the Trumps, right? And then the third issue I have is that most people today aren't rich. So how can you cry about generational wealth and systematic racism about white people when most white people don't have no generational wealth? The average median income of white people, and the last figure I saw was in 2022, was like 81,000. So white folks aren't rich like that. So, I mean, you can't cry about, I mean, right there proves that you can't cry about generational wealth and then try to apply that to white people. Not with those numbers, not with those figures. Most white folks aren't getting all this wealth from their parents and living high on the hog. They got to go out, they have to go out and work too. So this whole generational wealth argument is just fictitious nonsense that black people use, and these race hustlers in general use to keep other black people stuck on stupid, crying about absolutely nothing, wasting their time being victims and crying instead of doing it. Instead of these race hustlers telling black people, hey, if you don't cry about generational wealth, go out and earn it, and there's nothing stopping you from earning it, they keep telling black people that they're perpetual victims. Ridiculous. Anyway, if you ever hear any of these race hustlers or black folks, these brainwashed blacks, crying about generational wealth, well, now you know, and knowing it's half the battle, and it's always y'all. Until next time.